Hey everybody, welcome to the Stellium Astrology podcast. I'm Stephanie James, your host. I am the founder of StelliumAstrology.com. I used to write horoscopes for Elle magazine and I am an occasional tutor at the London School of Astrology. And today I am recording an enhanced podcast episode because I wanted to get into the habit of actually recording videos. It's something that I've been planning since forever. And actually, I've had lots of issues with my recording equipment, all sorts of stuff going on, but I finally got myself in a position where I think this is going to be possible. So I thought that I would do a podcast episode today and showcase my new software that I bought. I bought some Astro Gold software for my Mac, which is great because I used to have Solar Fire on my Mac. Now Solar Fire is kind of like the software that I would recommend anybody who has a Windows computer, Windows PC to use. And Astro Gold is like the Mac version of that. They were going to bring Solar Fire out on Mac, but they never really got round to it. But I think that Astro Gold is by the same people. I might be wrong, so I'm sorry if I got that wrong. But it's really good software. It's equally as good. And yeah, so I wanted to record something that was visual as well as audible. And I wanted to, get you guys looking at the chart as well. So, if you're listening to this and you want to see what I'm talking about, you can go to YouTube. I'll put a link in the description below. But before I do any chart interpretation, I just wanted to say hello to the people that listen to this podcast on their journey to work. So hey to every single one of you listening on your way to work. 3 people in particular I know for sure are doing this. One of them is Erica, though she may be listening to this podcast on the way to the gym. I know that she sent me a picture of her listening to the podcast in her car previously. Also Cara, one of my patrons, she is always listening on her journey to work, which I think is about an hour. So the when I get on a waffly one, it's quite good. Might not be easy for anybody to literally watch YouTube on their journey. So listening is good, but having the video back up, maybe you can catch up with it later on in the day. But either way, it's nice to be able to have it to watch or to listen to. I myself am somebody who does both with my favorite channels on YouTube and my favorite podcasts. I also wanted to say hello to some of my Twitter friends. Where is Twitter? I'm not very good at Twitter. I'm not really one. I'm just looking right now. So this is going to be real, guys. This is how I am. This is what I do. So let me pull Twitter up. Twitter. So yeah, basically, I have previously said how I'm kind of allergic to Twitter. I don't particularly like it. However, I am starting to get the hang of it a little bit. So actually, yes, there is, I've got someone on my Twitter who is chatty with me, and her name is Rebecca, not Becky. So I just wanted to say hello to Rebecca, not Becky. And I also wanted to say hello to, where is it now? I think I shared the tweet. See, I'm trying to get the hang of it all. It's all a bit new to me, basically. Oh gosh, where is it? Oh my goodness, trying to learn how to do this it's really hard. Natalia, or Natalia? I say Natalia. I think Natalia. Natalia, you've actually written me some reviews actually lately, which I just think is great. You've rated the podcast and I think you reviewed me on Apple Podcasts as well. So let me just have a quick look and see. Apple Podcasts. Let's have a look. Oh, I have to put in Stellium Astrology, don't I? Because that's it. There we go. The Stellium Astrology podcast on Apple Podcasts. Am I going to find your review? I think I read that one previously. I'll read it anyway because it's great. Top podcast find. I'm writing this review to encourage the algorithms to find you all. I wish that I'd found this fab podcast sooner. And now that I have, I'm hooked. Stephanie is an engaging host and has a logical way of presenting the vast topic of astrology. enabling a good and solid understanding of a complicated topic. This podcast popped up randomly on my feed, and I've gone back to the first and started listening from the beginning. I really like Stephanie's easy conversational style. It's like you're talking to a friend. She's funny, clever, quirky, and an incredibly knowledgeable natural teacher. Thank you, Stephanie, for this brilliant astrology resource. I hope that by leaving this review, more people are able to find you. I love all the compliments. I love the compliments. Let me have a quick look and see where this other review is. Right, yeah. Love the podcast. I think this is you, Natalia. Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, I've got another one here as well. I think I've read that one before on the podcast. This podcast makes astrology exciting. I'm listening to all the foundational astrology episodes on repeat, and it's been an amazing way for me to learn more about astrology in action. I feel like Stephanie's just chatting with us at coffee about astrology and life, and suddenly I find so many pieces making sense. Thank you. You make astrology so much fun and accessible. I'm going to digress again because you know how I digress. I found a meme that I just find hilarious, and I shared it, and it says, other people drinking coffee, elegant, sexy, perhaps on a Vespa in Milan. Me drinking coffee, pooping, panicking. I just love it. It's so true. Okay, so the other review that I got, the newer review. Love the podcast. I've been a subscriber of this podcast for a few months and I absolutely love it. Had to find you on Twitter and YouTube to be able to follow your tweets as well. You're quite knowledgeable and I'm excited to learn from you. I have to say, I don't share very knowledgeable tweets. It never occurs to me to tweet, but YouTube, I am trying to grow that side of what I do. So definitely follow me on both, at Stellium Astro on Twitter and Stellium Astrology on YouTube. Links will be in the comments in the section below, or in the the podcast description. And the other thing I wanted to say was that episodes, now some of the earlier episodes aren't listed on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. I didn't realize when you get to about 100 episodes, it literally just knocks the earlier episodes off. So if you're struggling to find them, I will put a link below. There's going to be one link that takes you everywhere you need to go. But one of the places you can go is the stelliumastrologypodcast.com. That's where I've got all of the podcast episodes. That is literally my podcast website, essentially. So you can get all of the earlier episodes, and I've put it all in categories as well over there. So hopefully you'll be able to find it. But I just want to say thank you so much for all the love. I really appreciate it. Let's have a little look at the chart today, because I wanted to get into listener charts, but actually I've had somebody contact me and say, I'm really having a tough time. I just don't know what to do with myself. I feel like I want to take action, but I don't know what to do. Blah, blah, blah. It's just very stressful, and they're having a difficult situation, basically. So I'm just getting the chart up now. And there we go. Create as a new chart. Okay, so there we go. And let me I will be sharing the screen with you. I'm just doing this quickly. Right, okay, so let's just get one chart up for the moment. Let me share the screen. Oh, come on, Steph. Where is it? How do I do it? Oh, there we go. Share screen. There we go. So here's Astro Gold. Here's my new software, which I was planning to buy for ages and ages and ages, and I finally got around to it. It didn't seem like it was worth my while doing anything particularly until I got into a routine when Ewan's back at nursery, my little boy's at nursery. So anyway, so today I've been speaking to Karis, and I said to her, do you mind if I record for the podcast your question, issues, whatever, so I can just share what you're going through and show you guys some of what's happening. So I know I've been saying, oh, I'm going to do more synastry episodes and whatever else, but I'm just going to have to just do whatever comes to me, I think, at the moment anyway, until I get a little bit more organized. So let's have a look. So Karis is Sun Gemini, and she has a stellium in Gemini as well. She has Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Chiron. I mean, some people might say that's not really a Gemini stellium, just because Chiron, does he count? I kind of think he does. She's got the North Node here as well, but having Mercury and Venus in the same sign as the Sun is arguably not a stellium, because it's they're never too far from the Sun. Venus is never more than really a couple of signs away, and Mercury is, I can't remember how many degrees, how far Mercury gets now off the top of my head, but he never goes too far either. He's either the sign ahead or the sign behind. Off the top of my head, my brain's not really working. Blame mummy brain, but it's always close by, and that's why you have retrograde periods, because Mercury slows down when he gets a bit far away and then speeds up again, and when he goes in front, he goes too far ahead, he'll slow down and then catch up with the Sun again. So it's like kind of like playing a game of catch up, like tag with the Sun always. And Venus does the same, but she doesn't go retrograde as often as Mercury, because she's that little bit further away from the Sun, and she's it's just the kind of the mathematics of it, basically, because it's actually a real astronomical phenomena. It's something that's actually visible because of our place on Earth, where we are in relation to the Sun, and where the Mercury and Venus are within our orbit of the Sun. So when they go retrograde, it's about an optical illusion from planet Earth, essentially. But astrologically, it's extremely poignant. Astronomers will tell you, oh, it doesn't mean anything at all. It's just stupid to think that retrograde periods could mean anything. But actually, it really is, it is poignant in an astrological sense. Going on a massive tangent there about retrogrades and whatever, kind of is relevant though. But anyway, so Karis has got a bunch of planets up there in Gemini. Some of you will call it a stellium, some of you won't. Personally, I think it's a heavy emphasis. It's 2 personal planets. It's the midheaven, which I know they say you can't include angles in a stellium either, but actually, it still adds emphasis, essentially. So there's a lot of emphasis up here, not just in Gemini, but in her 9th house. And as we know, the 9th house is kind of like the opposite essence to Gemini, because it's the Sagittarius house, which is Sagittarius's opposite. So it's almost like it's been flipped, this chart a little bit. We've got this kind of all of the Gemini stuff in the kind of Sagittarius house, and all the Saggy stuff down here is in the Gemini house. So she's got this kind of all of this stuff going on. She's got 29 Virgo rising, which is so close to being Libra, and as you can see, that would be the opposite of flipping Aries for Libra, as Libra rising. So basically the chart is kind of back to front, upside down type thing. And she also has got 3 planets sitting here in her 2nd house. So she's got Pluto at 29 Libra, she's got Saturn at 10 Scorpio, and Mars at 11 Scorpio. So she's got a Mars-Saturn conjunction, which is, anywhere we've got Mars is where we've got our drive and our energy and what we want to pursue and what we want to go after. And Saturn is kind of almost like putting the brakes on, forcing us to take our time and go slower. Saturn is the ruler of her moon at 17 Capricorn. She's also got Neptune at 0 Capricorn and Jupiter at 9. So she's got 3 planets in Capricorn. So essentially you could say it's like a stellium in in Capricorn as well. And though it's wide, it is kind of they're kind of in conjunction, but it's a very, very wide, spacious one. Wherever you see a luminary like the sun or the moon, you can say, yes, you could extend the orb for what you would allow for a conjunction anyway, up to about 10 degrees usually. Jupiter, you can always extend the the conjunction orb, because Jupiter is just so expansive anyway. So you could say, yes, actually Jupiter as well, you could have a wider orb. And then you've got Neptune as well, which just doesn't even have any boundaries anyway, so just it's very diffuse. But that's all hanging around here at the bottom part of the chart, actually in conjunction with the IC as well. So there's a lot of top and tail going on here, even though these aren't opposite each other necessarily. There's a lot of the chart is very much sort of not quite a seesaw. These planets are in a sort of seesaw over here, but there's definitely a sense of very clear sections of the chart which are populated and some aren't. And obviously we've got down here, we've got the south node, which obviously opposes the north node, and Karis has got Uranus opposite all of her, well, opposite her stellium, opposite her Gemini stuff as well. So and it quite closely opposes her Mercury as well. So Karis's chart ruler, Mercury, which it's her chart ruler because she has Virgo rising, and it also rules her midheaven and her sun as well, which is quite a big deal, makes Mercury a very prominent planet in her chart. It's very important. So yeah, having that opposite Uranus emphasizes, a very Uranian quality, that it could be through her relationships, or it could be something that she has to experience, this element of change. And on the bottom part of the chart, you might say that it might be difficult for her to kind of find like lay some roots. It's not totally on the IC, it's still in the same sign as the IC though. And as just anybody who's listening to this, I'm using equal house, by the way. Karis's birthday is the 15th of June 1984 at 1 British summertime in Carshalton in England. And like I said, I'm using the equal house system for this. So she's got loads of like planets that are sort of clustered up at the bottom, and she's got loads that are kind of in a big tight cluster in the 9th house up at the top. So the 2nd, the 3rd and the 4th house are kind of important, emphasized. So we've got issues of I think personal moral perspectives, like what she kind of values in life, financial issues, perhaps earning potential, priorities. I always feel like the 2nd house is kind of like the things that we really care about, the things that are outside of ourselves, that we wish to possess, or we wish to bring close to our inner circle, in a sense. Not necessarily always objects. It can be ways that you see the world or want to be. And she's got this 9th house stuff going on, which I happen to think, it's the house of philosophy. It's about the kind of personal rules that we hold ourselves accountable to, as opposed to the 10th house, which is the rules that everybody has to live by. The 9th house is this kind of personal rule book. So it feels like a very strongly principled chart with strong values. And that Capricorn moon sitting there as well is very conscientious and appreciates accountability and responsibility, and needs structure. And it's quite emotionally boundaried, is quite stoic. And the ruler of the moon, like I said, was Saturn sitting in Scorpio. So again, another emotionally boundaried, it doesn't allow the watery nature of Scorpio isn't free flowing, it's quite frozen and it's quite solid. So we get a feel for the personality, I think, really, with this chart. When we look at it like that, we kind of get a sense of strong values, stoic. But there's a lot of fun in this Gemini stuff, but it's also you know, philosophical, and probably has quite strong beliefs about the way the world is or should be, and how they should be within the world, you know, how they can fit into the world. Opposite Uranus, there's a sort of activism flavor about it as well. And in the third house, maybe this person is, you know, somebody who does, you know, communication, but in a different way. Friends might be a bit quirky, you know, and maybe friends are at a distance. Maybe there's not a close connection with friends, but the connection with friends is close, but not physically. And the ones that are close, maybe there may be a lot of differences that make you very, very different people, but you can still appreciate one another. Now, Karis is going through some stuff, because what we've got going on is very soon, on the 10th, I think, of September. Let me pull up new chart. So let's do current transits. So we've got, let's have a look. We've got Mars currently in Gemini, and Mars in Gemini might be heating, like the kind of firing her up. And the problem is, when Mars is in a visible part of the chart, it could be quite obvious if you're feeling a bit fired up or a bit feisty. It could be that everybody sees that. But there feels like frustration, or it could be like a real energy to get out some drive to really start doing things you want to do. Let me just check that we're recording. It looks like we are. Yep. Yep, we're recording. Just wanted to double check that. So yeah, so that Mars coming up there in the 9th house as well. It could be like your focus has shifted from a more personal perspective, though it is moving towards your personal planet. So it will involve you personally, but into a much bigger picture perspective. So it could be about where you fit in the bigger picture at the moment, and you know, the future for where you want to be. Now let's have another look and see what's going on just transit wise for Karis. So we've got Mercury's in the 1st house, and it's trine Mars as well at the moment. So Mercury and Mars are in communication, and they are talking about, Mars is talking about wanting to take action, feeling like there's more, and, you know, thinking, can I be studying something? Should I be studying something? Should I be broadening my own horizons? You know, maybe checking in with, you know, a shift in philosophy, a shift in outlook, like, you know, am I able to live by the rules that I've set for myself, or do I need to think outside the box a bit more? That kind of thing. Mercury is actually going to be turning retrograde on, let's see, I've got my book here, my little Bible, the ephemeris, the American ephemeris. So let's have a look. We are at brain 2022. So we are in September 2022, and yes, Mercury goes retrograde on the 10th at 8:55. So like I said, this is new software to me, so I am learning it. There we go. I want it to move one day at a time. So as we can see, as we bring the chart forward, and how interesting, look, the moon currently is in Scorpio, and I'm talking about what Karis needs, maybe reflecting back something, you know, to her. I'm a Capricorn, maybe, and I've got a Scorpio moon as well, so maybe I'm reflecting the detail and kind of exploring the subtext of her lunar nature, which, you know, Saturn is being transited by the moon right now, and rules her natal moon placement. So yeah, so let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, I've gone way ahead. There we go. So on the yes, 10th of September, Mercury goes retrograde, and it's in her first house, and it's her chart ruler. So he's kind of a big deal. And look at that, on the day of Mercury retrograde, the sun is trine her moon. So this is a really good opportunity, and the sun's in her 12th house as well. So this is a really good opportunity for her to a spotlight from the 12th house, which, if you think of it like a lighthouse shining out as a beacon for the ships in the night so that they don't crash into the rocks. You know, there's almost like this kind of spotlight which is helping to guide her through the lack of clarity that she may be experiencing. And the sun, you know, is Leo rules the cusp of her 12th house by equal. So essentially, the sun is, you know, kind of in the house that is ruled. It's the lord of that house in her chart. However, he is in Virgo, so he is communicating with her ascendant and has that Mercury ruled flavor about him. So this really is about helping Karis tune into what she needs, this Mercury retrograde approaching. And Mercury here, which is slowed down and stationed and will then be moving back, is going to be retrograde literally over her ascendant. So let's just, if I press play and watch him go back, he goes back over her ascendant, and then that went quite quickly, but you can see that on the 2nd of October he stations at 24 Virgo. Now, something else that's interesting that's going on with Karis is that she has got 29 Virgo rising, and she's had Pluto moving all over her Capricorn stuff. She will have felt his entry in 2008 when he went in there initially and really rocked the foundations for everybody. And as he's crept forward over the past few years, however many years it's been that he's been in there, gosh, it's been ages, he moved over her moon, probably beginning in 2016. I say probably, it almost certainly began really intensely around that time, because I have my son at that degree, so I remember it very well. But yes, so literally over the past few years, Karis has had a lot of Pluto contact, and not just that, she's had Pluto move over all of these planets. When I talk about trailing planets, it's kind of what I mean. Pluto's kind of the trailing planet, so it's got the furthest to travel around the chart. And he's gone past all of that stuff now. And I just said to her the other day, oh, it's okay, you know, you've done all your Pluto stuff for a little while. And then I was like, oh no, wait, hang on, he's now trying your ascendant. Not only is he trying your ascendant, he's also going to be squaring his natal position. So you know, there's a certain time in everybody's life when we have the Pluto square Pluto transit. It varies, because I think the Pluto is a little bit erratic. Its orbit is slightly squiffy. I think it takes a lot longer to travel through some signs than others, and so we don't all have it at the same time. However, Pluto square Pluto is it's a very challenging time for anybody in their life, where they have to accept. Pluto transits are generally about acceptance and allowing yourself to let go of the things you can't control. We were literally, Karis and I were talking about the serenity prayer literally yesterday, something like, grant me the courage, serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. So, you know, there is a sense of like knowing when you picking your battles, basically, particularly for Karis, picking her battles, knowing when to spend that energy and when not to, when to take action and when to stay put. But yes, so she's got this Pluto trine Pluto going on, and Mercury is also going to be sitting around that point as well when he stations to go direct back over her ascendant. So maybe at that point she will have been able to process and let go of some stuff. Mercury ends up back in her 12th house as well, so you know, it's a sense of going back into like the woolly kind of realms, that kind of there's not a real clarity about the 12th house. Usually when Mercury's moving through our 12th, we don't really have a definitive idea of what we want. But then as he starts to move forward again, you know, it may be that you know what you don't want because you've been through stuff. It might not be that you know what you do want, but you don't know what you actually want, but you've got an idea of what you really don't want to deal with. But that's fine, because this is all a process, and you can see that with Pluto. I think you'll be tested, you'll be pushed to your limits of what you're mentally prepared to accept. And because actually it's the ruler of your midheaven and your whole ascendant, I think you're going to have a whole shift in perspective over this. And what else is interesting is the fact that now that Venus and the Sun are in Libra, they are trying all of the stuff in Gemini. And it'll have a conversation with one, and then as it moves through, something else will aspect in the chart, and it's a kind of process of almost like the penny dropping for you. Now, the other thing that's interesting is that Mars currently is at about, I think it was about 6 or 7 when I started. If we keep moving forwards, it looks like we're in October at the moment, but if we keep moving forward, I'm not quite sure how we can slow that down. Yeah, you can see Mars is getting slower. Oh, there you go. Mars stations retrograde on her Sun at 20. Well, her Sun's at 24, midheaven's at 28, and Karis is and Mars, transiting Mars, stations retrograde on Karis's Sun and Venus, and very close to her 10th house cusp. So suddenly she's gone from you know, having this forward motion with Mercury and probably gaining a bit of momentum, having some ideas about what she wants now, gaining some kind of perspective, to suddenly having a change of direction as far as her energetic output is concerned, as far as her focus is concerned. And this is, like I said, there's a lot of frustration with Mars whenever it sort of moves anywhere in the chart. It heats you up. It makes you impatient. It makes you ready to take action, to just get going, to just want to get things sorted. And as he slows down to retrograde, he may want to change his mind as well. I remember I talked about this on another podcast episode, but I remember being on a course and feeling like things weren't quite right, but I wasn't ready to really make any decisions. And someone I was with decided to sign the contract for the course. And I myself was personally not ready to do so. And the following week, Mars went retrograde in Aquarius at the time, on my stellium. And that's when I decided I definitely didn't want to be part of the course. A lot of stuff transpired, and I was like, definitely don't think this is the right course for me. So, you know, this is the kind of thing, even up until he turns retrograde, you may have like an idea of where you want to be headed, where the direction of you know, your efforts, your energy, your focus, where it's aimed. But actually you may decide as he starts to station, I can feel myself changing direction here, I can feel myself shifting. So that said, then Mars is going to be in Gemini for, let's press play. So he's going backwards. We're in December now. Oops, and then he stationed. There we go, stationed at about 8 degrees. And that's on the 12th of January. So Mars is in Gemini until the 12th of January. Well, that's when he's retrograde. When he actually leaves Gemini, gosh, it's going to take ages. So yeah, he stays in Gemini up until about the 25th of March. So it's a very, very, very long time. So let me go back. So basically, he stations direct at about 8 degrees of Gemini. 8 degrees Gemini. So he's only 2 degrees away now from entering his you know, some people call it the shadow period. It depends what you class the shadow period to be. I personally think he's in shadow as soon as he gets to 8 degrees, which means he already starts gearing up for this period of change. And you know, Mars in Gemini is about giving us a choice, and you know, allowing us to think about where we want to be and what we want to be doing. exploring our options. And, you know, at the moment, maybe Karis feels like she doesn't really have many options, or maybe she's overwhelmed with options. The likelihood is, she's told me that she keeps applying for jobs, and then when they come back to her, she's like, but this isn't what I want. And most people would find that frustrating. But actually, I looked at her chart and I said, well, I don't think it's a good time for you to make a decision. And actually, really kindly, her husband had said to her, you know, if you want to take some time out for a few months, I can cover you, so you can sort of find yourself and do a bit of exploration and discover what you want. And I said, she said, I don't really feel comfortable with that. She's a Capricorn. She doesn't like the idea of him spending his money. You know, they've got a family, they've got a home, you know, and his money is her money. So she doesn't really want to him to spend that money on her in that respect, because she doesn't want it to be wasted. Though it wouldn't be a waste of money if it's really helping her to discover what she needs. It really isn't a wonderful time to be making big decisions like that. Not with Mercury about to turn retrograde, and then just in a few months Mars to turn retrograde. It feels like, you know, potentially everybody's different. This is somebody who needs to proceed with caution. They need to have structure. They need to have a good sense of footing on that mountain, because they don't want to fall down. And somebody who's naturally quite good about thinking of the future, and you know, and in touch with you know, having a strong faith and knowing that there's a sense of guidance in what she does. She feels a strong sense of guidance. You know, so I definitely think that she is studying as well at the moment as well. She's studying a course. She's doing something called Family Constellations, which is a really interesting, and you know, it might be worth having her coming on and talking about it at some point, because it's fascinating stuff. But yeah, basically, this is not somebody who's not particularly into taking risks, though they are able to be spontaneous. She has got a sense of spontaneity about her. It's always a measured sense of spontaneity. She used to just leave her job and go traveling, and she'd come back to the same job. She always had the ability to return to the place that she'd left. She'd always make sure she saved up loads of money to go traveling, whereas some people just get credit cards and spend loads of money on credit cards. She wasn't that kind of person. She'd save up money and go traveling. Obviously, this is a chart for somebody who's going to have done a lot of overseas adventuring. But yes, so I feel like, you know, with Mars going retrograde over all of her personal planets, Mars rules her 8th house and also her 2nd house. So, well, in fact, some of the planets in her 2nd, but it's actually the cusp of the 3rd. This could be about, you know, looking at going deeper, more into a sort of psychological exploration, and connecting with, you know, the truth of who she is, and perhaps dealing with some of the more hidden aspects of who she is. She's being very honest with herself and asking herself questions about where her reactions are truly coming from, and what it is why she's feeling triggered by certain things and people, rather than just being angry about people. She's like, why am I getting angry? And what's causing this? Which is very philosophical, that 9th house need to look beyond the immediate, and you know, that Moon Jupiter conjunction as well. So and also with these sort of like the 2nd house Mars and Saturn, there's a kind of I suppose looking at her true values and what she really values most. And I think that for Capricorns, one of the most valuable things to us is our time. The Capricorn moon, you know, doesn't want to waste its time. It wants to make sure that where it goes, it's going to be going somewhere that is productive and useful, and not going to be a kind of digression. The Gemini stuff is happy to digress, but you know, there's a time and a place for that kind of attitude. And when it comes to work, and somebody who has a Capricorn moon who needs that kind of aspect in their life, that kind of routine, that structure, and that need to be taken seriously, they need to take this next step very seriously, because Mercury retrograde isn't necessarily a big deal usually. It's a very common occurrence, but to go over the ascendant is quite a big deal. The fact that it rules her ascendant and her sun is quite a big deal. And the fact that she's having this kind of it's kind of like a kind of meaningful kind of a quest for meaning. These are the houses for questing, actually, and finding meaning as well. The 3rd, the 9th, the 12th, and the 6th. There's a sense of looking for meaning in what we do. So, you know, I'm not solving her problems for her. I'm just pointing out that this is where some of this stuff is coming from. You know, this big Pluto transit is coming along to transform her entire outlook. You know, she's always kind of done a square job, and she's very good at what she does. She's very hardworking. She's got a great work ethic. She's very conscientious. But maybe now she's thinking, but what about me? What do I really want? And, you know, all of these opportunities that are coming up that all sound completely amazing and fantastic. She's taking a step back and going, but even though I'm being offered this stuff and then literally jobs are landing in her lap, just think about that, how crazy that is in this current climate. And she's like, it's just not right. I just know it's not right for me. She's got the eclipses, which are moving, you know, the nodes, which are moving towards her, her Saturn and her Mars. It's the South node over here that's currently sitting very close, which is probably making it very easy for her to stay in her comfort zone, but she's aware of this and she's working on it. So this Mars retrograde is activating the North node. It's going to pull her out of her comfort zone. The other thing is she is going to be, the place that she works is going to be closing down towards the end of this year. And she's going to have to either find a new job or move wherever they go. And I think this is going to be the prompt for her to actually do something meaningful for herself. So yeah, so I thought that would be interesting to look at. The one other thing that I thought was quite interesting was when Mercury actually stations direct, look at where the moon is. It's on her Neptune at 0 Capricorn. The moon's in Capricorn. She'll be having her lunar return at that point as well. So, you know, it's Mercury's not always got it's not clear. It's great in Virgo, but it's not got all the clarity in the 12th house. The moon is going to be highlighting that relationships for her with that Neptune on the descendant, but also that kind of these are like, again, questing for meaning, these kind of spiritual planets. It's not necessarily a spiritual journey, but I think the work she needs to do has a spiritual flavor to it. And at the moment she's doing something that's very earthly and very physical, and could be, you could bring the modalities. She works in a physiotherapy clinic, so you could bring the modalities together and do something that's spiritual and bring it into the physical. However, I think she's done a lot of the real physical earthy stuff, and now she's looking for something a little bit less real and more ethereal, but what it's very much real for anybody who works in those areas, you know. So not to belittle or talk it down in any way, but yes, so I just thought it'd be fun to look at. One other thing I thought I'd check, actually two other things. I won't go on for too much longer. Let's look at the subsidiary chart. So we've got, just very quickly, her secondary progressions. I noticed that her progressed moon has just entered Gemini very, very recently, and her sun has just entered Leo. And I'd say, well, the sun's entered Leo must have been a year ago. So probably for about a year, she's probably felt a real need to express herself creatively. And in the 11th house, using equal, there's a sense of doing this with her community, finding a community. Your vibe attracts your tribe. She's also like a trained yoga teacher, so I know that there's that sense. Look at that, Mars at 18 of Scorpio. The eclipses, the nodes are like there right now. Let's have a quick look. The nodes are there right now. Well, it's just past, it's going backwards. The nodes go backwards, but look at that. So her progressed Mars is 18. So this is like the eclipses literally waking up her Mars, and then this is being echoed by Mars retrograde over her stellium as well. So there's that, which is really interesting. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to do a whole thing on progressions at some point for sure. But I just wanted to show you that. So with the moon moving in literally very recently, and the moon, progressed moon stays in a sign for about 2 to 2.5 years. That means that she's just finished a 2.5 year period of having a moon in Taurus, and now she's ready. So the moon in Taurus is very fixed and it doesn't really want movement. And now it's moved into mutable Gemini. It's going to meet up with her sun in a year or so, and in a couple of years maybe. And this is when she's going to have her true purpose in life reflected back to her. She have to ask, is this really what I need? Is this really what I want from life? And it will be reflected to her. So that was interesting to me. And the other thing that's very interesting to me is that she has got by solar arc. And if you want to know what solar arc is, I have done a class. I've got videos on that with Frank Clifford. I'll have to link it in the description. But actually, she has got her solar arc directed Uranus. So Uranus has moved over from Sagittarius into Capricorn, and it is very, 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 very close to being exactly in conjunction with her sun. So Uranus is bringing that need for change. It's awakening her. And actually, you know, in the fourth house, the IC, the bottom part of the chart, it really is the emotional basement. It's the psychological basement. It's where we keep all of our, you know, deepest, darkest longings and the subconscious aspects of our psyche all locked up in that basement. And with it highlighting her moon, awakening her moon, it could very well be, you know, completely and utterly a complete change is approaching, basically. So it's a complete shift in mindset. It's a complete change of direction. It just seems like such a poignant time for her. And there's so many other things going on, but as you can tell, there's a lot. It would take a long time for me to cover everything. But I just wanted to explore this chart and show you what I can see and the potentials that are contained within this. If you saw anything in this chart that you wanted to talk about that I didn't cover, you can put it in the comments. You can contact me directly, Stephanie, Stefanie, at stelliumastrology.com. It's interesting to share ideas, and you know, it's always, I find fascinating to see what other people have to say. So yeah, let me know what you think. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. You know, obviously the channel is growing, and I've got a little competition for later on in the year. Somebody will go into a draw for, somebody will win a Magic of Eye almanac. All you have to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel and to send me a screenshot, screen capture, to let me know that you've signed up. Just because if you've got a private YouTube channel, you know, I might not be able to see who you are. So if that happens and you've subscribed, you won't be able to be entered because I won't be able to contact you. That's literally the only reason I'm asking for you to email me the screenshot. But yeah, so I think that's everything for now. I hope you enjoyed today's enhanced episode. I guess I better go now. But yeah, hopefully, Karis, this has helped you somewhat to visualize what's going on with you. And everybody else watching or listening, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, exploring Karis's kind of big period of change. All right, guys, thanks very much. Take care, and I will speak to you next week. Bye.